Hello everyone, welcome to MediaNama. On December 4, the upper house of the Indian Parliament, Rajya Sabha, passed the Post Office Bill 2023 to replace the Indian Post Office Act 1898. The new bill is a controversial one as it has raised several concerns related to individual privacy and establishment of a surveillance state by members of the opposition parties. We have with us MediaNama journalist Vallari Sanzgiri, who will help us understand what's so problematic about the new bill and what are the major points of debate here. Hi, Vallari. So, what is it in the post office bill that is seen to be detrimental to privacy?
So, basically, if you look at the new bill, which is the Post Office Bill 2023, it has two revised clauses in the bill that differentiate from the older version of the bill, which is the 1898 one. If I just read out the clause 9 to you, it says that any officer, which is a post office person, post office officer, can cause any item in course of transmission of the by the post office to be intercepted. So basically, the officer can intercept, open, detain any postal article in the interest of the security of the state, the friendly relations with foreign states,
Hmm.
public order, emergency, or public safety, or other like clauses of the bill that are mentioned over there. Now, the thing is that the older version of this clause, it mentioned intercepting and detaining the article, but it did not specifically mention opening the article. Now, if you
Hmm.
open a post, it's like when you're texting someone and someone peeks into your messages, right? So it's basically a violation of your right to privacy, and that is why it is a concern. It is raised as a right to privacy concern by various MPs right now.
Right. So, in what ways you can say that it is similar to privacy issues in the online space because you talked about interception being equivalent to encryption. If you could elaborate a bit on that part.
So, like I mentioned, suppose someone sees your text while you're texting, right? Now, if someone does that virtually, it's like someone is breaking into your encryption. Now, we all know about the encryption debate going on in the digital world, whether or not a government entity should be allowed to have these backdoors into your encryption. What
Hmm.
this new clause under this new bill is doing is basically giving the government a backdoor into these postal documents of people and violating their privacy. And another thing is that there are no clear grounds. If you remember when I read out the clause, I
Hmm.
mentioned emergency, national security, public order. None of these things have been defined in the bill. In fact, the new bill that must be around, I think, 7 pages, it only has six definitions and none of them explain what an emergency is basically. In the older bill, what they did was they had said that in the event of an emergency, an officer can detain or intercept the document, but it also added that if there is any doubt about whether something is an emergency, you have to get a certificate from the relevant authority, which could be the central government, which could be the state government. Now, that
Right.
clause of sorts is not over there. It just talks
Hmm.
about intercepting, opening, detaining, and in the sub clause, it also mentions disposing of the document if the officer thinks it's okay.
Right. So, taking from the point that you mentioned about the powers that the central agencies would have, so does the bill sort of vest in more powers to officers from central government departments than the state officials when it comes to the recent bill, the latest one?
It's actually interesting because if you look at the older version of the bill, it in most cases where it talks about government powers, it says the central government and any government of the state.
Right.
Now, the current bill only mentions central government everywhere. It does not mention government states at all, state
Hmm.
governments at all. So basically, that is one of the contentions that was raised by the MPs during the debate in the Rajya Sabha, that this bill sort of goes against the federal principle of the constitution, because technically the bill should in the letter itself state that even the state governments are allowed to um, give the uh, deal with the officers about whether something should be intercepted, how it should be intercepted, how it should not be intercepted. But right now, as the bill stands, it does not give any kind of powers to the state government. So that is another concern that MPs had raised.
Right. So, what kind of commentary are we seeing from the opposition parties while they were debating the bill? Like, even in terms of positive points as well as criticism that they might have raised.
So the thing is that this bill, the intention of this new bill was to modernize the postal system in India. So
Hmm.
originally the bill only looked at mail delivery services. Now it just wanted to look at various kind of service deliveries.
Hmm.
Also, it wanted to bring in more banking services in via this bill into the postal office. But the problem is that um, now, other than everything that I've mentioned so far, there is a criticism that the officer in person who can intercept the bill. Some of the opposition MPs have raised the problem that you have not defined how this officer is going to be appointed. What are the criteria required for this officer to be the designated person?
Hmm.
Also, it does not mention, so in the second clause, which is clause 10, it talks about giving liability, removing all liabilities from the postal office. So
Hmm.
basically, if something is done to your postal document, postal article, um, in the old act, it used to have this separate section called penalties. That
Hmm.
is not there in the current bill at all. It's not there.
Right.
So this means that any kind of compensation or any kind of penalty that should be put on the officer in charge in case he does, mess up and not go by the letter and violate the law and somehow. It does not explain how that penalty will be levied on the post officer. It does not mention how the compensation will be given to the person sending the post. So that is a major concern, especially because it might drive people away from the postal office altogether, government post office, and send them towards private entities.
Hmm.
And now, this bill again, it does not have any regulation for private entities at all. So, in the event that what the opposition MPs are predicting does happen and people go away from the postal office towards private players, what is the government going to do to regulate that aspect of it? That is another contention that was raised in the during the debate.
Right. So, how is the government justifying this unilateral powers that it is giving under this bill to intercept and do and other various exemptions that you talked about to officials carrying out such activities, operations?
So, during the Rajya Sabha debate, Minister Ashwini Vaishnav was talking, and what he said regarding the interception part of it, at least, was that, and I think I'm not going verbatim, but basically what he said that in a country as diverse as India, it is important for the government to have certain provisions in the bill that allow for the interception of these documents. But again, the thing is that interception used to exist before as well. It's not something new. What is
Huh.
new in this bill is the opening of the document and the lack of any preventive measures. So, if I want to cross check what exactly was the emergency, who is this officer that was appointed, and on what basis, what happens if my document is gone now and it turns out there was no basis for them to detain and dispose my document, what is my compensation? All of these things have been gone, but that wasn't exactly addressed during the Rajya Sabha debate. Another point that Vaishnav had pointed out was, give me a minute.
Hmm.
Yeah, regarding the lack of procedures. So even in case that something is intercepted or taken away, there is no uh, explicit procedure as to how this might happen. There is no procedure as to how a person might be informed that their document has been taken away. Now, a lot of MPs ask that the bill first include this procedure and then we may go forward. What Vaishnav has said that is that these procedural details will be figured out later on as we go along and once the bill has been dealt with. So these are the only two responses majorly that have been addressed in the sense that issues that opposition MPs have raised and the government has answered.
Right. Um, my last question to you would be: does this bill in any way, add concerns around advancement towards a surveillance state, since we talked about interception and broad powers to, um, infringement to privacy of citizens. So, is there anything? Of course, it must bother us, but what's the main point that you would like to highlight?
So actually, even again during the Rajya Sabha debate, even Priyanka Chaturvedi and Raghav Chadha had sort of raised this example of how their Apple devices some time ago had raised a warning alert that their devices might be hacked into, or again I don't remember the exact lingo over here, but that there is some state sponsored invasion of their device that they
Hmm.
need to consider.
Yeah.
uh, Another thing that they had raised concern about was the possible invasion of Pegasus, right? So now the reason people are worried that this might end up being a surveillance issue is because, again, national security, public emergency, these kind of things have not been explicitly explained in the bill. We don't know what an emergency will constitute as. It's up to the central government, because like I said, everywhere the bill only mentions the center and not the state. So, which is why, again, the fact that there are no safeguards for the people in case someone wants to contest the actions that the government takes, that majorly is what is raising these surveillance state concerns.
Right. Thanks, Vallari, for your insights on the new bill. For our viewers, if you are curious about tech policy news and developments, do check out our articles on MediaNama.com and follow our YouTube channel for quick explainers and quick takes on a wide range of tech policy issues. Thank you.